Saturday session as well. Now, they went to Lumbini together with Su Ching. Understand Su Ching, so Effie went first, and then was followed by Sister Lily later. So they're going to share with us sending love to Lumbini, the birthplace of the Buddha, through one V and one C. Platform is all yours, Sister Effie.
Good morning, Brother Chin and all the brothers and sisters. Karen for the introduction. May I share my screen now? Yeah. Is it visible?
Yes.
So can I put large and large? Okay, good morning. Again. Okay, I'm sending love to Lumbini, a holy place in Nepal. So we set foot, my name is Effie. We set foot in Lumbini on the 13th of May, traveling about 5 hours 5 hours flight. And this is the memories leaving behind during the almost 1 month in Lumbini. And it's exciting when hearing that have to go to Buddha land to serve. So it's my first time. And this is an important landmark. This is an important landmark. When we arrive, we are as volunteers, we are asked to check in this landmark. This is the Gautam Buddha International Airport, and we have to pass this photo to our Suchi officer. So it's an important landmark. It's at the corner of the airport. And what do we do? What do I do there? Sending love, how to send love. So I joined this program called One Village, One Committee, meaning 1V, 1C. And this is the map. Why we have the map here is for us to enter the village, what to do. This is a very a good question. I landed there with no knowledge of what to do. I just entered the village. And this is the first village called Lakshmipur in Nepal. And you seeing the map here. This is after we have completed, this is the mapping we call. Actually, going through now what is 1V, 1C, and the mapping is home-to-home visit. That means we visit every village. And this is Lakshmipur, the first village, and the details of how many households, what is happening, where the houses are located. And this is during the hot weather rising from 40 degrees to 52 during the period I was there. And this is the second village, Jamuhi, within the in Lumbini, and this is Amagan. All these are completed during our days, during our serving in Lumbini. So these 4 villages, Patijaya was the last village, and that we completed, but we waited for Sister Lily. We did half first, and then wait for Sister Lily to come to join us with the mapping, at least to experience how we're going to, and to get the excitement. And these are the 4 villages that were completed, and these are the details for 1V, 1C, one community, one village, one community. What is that for? I was wondering. And we did it very precisely within 21 days, but our stay was beyond that, almost a month we were there. So these are the details that we have, and it helped us along the way to send our love to each individual. But before that, we take the opportunities, our footprints. We will go to the Maya Devi garden. The Maya Devi temple is where Buddha was born. Every morning to chant the Sutra of Infinite Meaning. So we take this opportunity to go. And if you see these photos, it's actually in the morning, 5:30, between 5:30 and 6:15. That is local time, which is 2.5 hours difference from Malaysia. So these are the footprints that we set from morning and evening. if we have time in the evening, then we'll go. So this is the area, the memories leaving behind. And thereafter, after our chanting, we'll go back to our hotel and rest for half an hour to get our fast breakfast, and then we will start our journey, entering the village to do the mapping. During our stay there, it was the weather was rising very steeply from 39 to 51, even 52. So how we experience that is like something like the hot blowing, the hair dryer is blowing right in front of you, that kind of condition. So at times it goes up to 50, 51, 52. And our mapping exercise here, we send love. We also send love to, not only to the villagers as we enter, but also to our city local staff. There are staff here. We go along with them, bring them along. So in this picture, you see that even adverse weather, we in the first place, only myself and Su Ching are there to go out. The rest, they are in other mission, that they are in education. So this is the local volunteer. For the first week or so, only both of us are entering the village. So we usually will do a briefing with ourselves, and what are we going to do? How are we going to do this a new place, sandy, hot, no proper roads, no proper infrastructure. So this is also, as times goes by, we will gather the information. At the same time, when we visit these villages, we're actually sending love, interacting with them. So this is, I call it myself, village mapping. So usually we go after our chanting is from 8:30. And then there are 2 sessions, and until it ends at 5:30 at times, that is local time. So in Malaysia time, I think 5:30, most of us are already having our dinner, but for us, we're still out there. So we go and interact with all this, and you see that there are local boys. Actually, they look very tall, but they're actually aged between 8 to 14 years old, 13 years old. So how we interact with them, they will join us. Once they see us, they will follow us. And it's good also that they give us they help us adding value. They can speak the local language, Awadi. It's not Nepalese, but Awadi, the local dialect. So this is how our experience. And during our daily visits, home visits, account mapping, we create awareness of city's footprint in all these villages. These 4 villages we completed. And for what purpose do we do it? In the end, we find that it's very useful, easy identification to know each household, collecting this data, what is happening to this household, where is the location, because they're not properly, the houses are not properly built and not properly structured. Not like in Malaysia, you have the like terrace house is one after the other, the numbering, there are no numbers at all. So actually, this sending love to these villages is at one go. I personally feel that the 4 missions are in place. Following up with as we go, we get all this data. We will help the charity, medical, and even education. And the last is humanistic, to bring in the humanistic values. And why one village, one community again is for caring for the villagers who are in need. So this is the one that there are many, of course, but we identify, share today this Sumitra and Madani. You can see here, these are the 2 local volunteers supposed to be, they are entering the school, not for the 1V1C, but they join us after the 2nd week we are there. This is the story of this lady, like the Kaya Spa and the poor woman. Despite very poor, she still adopt the rice bank. Yeah. So I'm going to continue with the homes visit stories that inspire during this while sending love to the villagers. The first story is about this Sumitra again, which is identified during my home visit or the mapping on the 15th of May. I was being teamed up with this local boy. Actually, this local boy is actually school going, but he didn't want to. He saw us. He was so enthusiastic. He will follow us because the school starts at 9 a.m. local time in Lumbini. So we enter the village, sometimes we reach early, 8:30. So when he see us, he will, all the villagers, they were, the boys especially, the students, they will come around, you know. So this is the first story that I want to share about this young boy called, his name is Upendra, 13 years old. And while I was doing mapping with him before he left for school at 9, so we collect this data about this lady who told me that she's not feeling well, you know. Then the roof is leaking, poverty, you know, that she need help, right? So let us see what's next when we visit. So we continue to visit this lady since she bring up this actually the village, this is Lashmipur. It's the first village that we enter, which is a bit quite near to our hotel. If we compare with the other three villages, this is the nearest, considered the nearest. So this is the roof of the villager called Sumitra and Madani, and you can see it's very high. The height is very high. It's even taller than our house, but it's very, very hot because this is zinc. So she was saying about the roof is leaking, but do not know where, you see. So out of nowhere, we have to 1V1C sending love. So we are concerned, to identify and to help in whatever way that we can. So we try to find a leaking roof, and we have this local volunteer, self-proclaimed volunteer. They are not paid volunteer. Those in the West, they are paid volunteer. The local staff are paid. But these young boys, they are not paid. They are school-going children. So they also are very happy, you know, come along with us and help to identify whatever we ask to do. They are actually observing us. So as we ask them to identify and find the hole, then we try to help this lady. At the same time, everything happened at the same time. So this her leg also had problem, not unable to walk. So we thought that, you know, medical service that you can get help from our Pudu, our city clinic, but supposedly later we know that we are being informed that they have to make appointment 3 months ahead. So what do we do? We with our driver, who is also very compassionate along the way as they observe us how we do things under the extreme weather, entering the village. Sometimes we enter the same village twice a day. So we are quite very close to the villagers. During this mapping exercise, we can know exactly which person, which villager, where they stay and what happened. This is the wonders of the one village, one community program. So even the drive, we went to ahead to check out, does Lumbini, the local nearby the villages, do they have a clinic? Do they have medical service or whatever? So because the majority of the people we visited during this house mapping, they are very reluctant to get medical help. Not sure why, but later we found out that it's not that easy because it's a government hospital and it closed on a Friday, right? So happened that day on a Friday, because we entered the village, we are continuing serving them. So on the Friday, the van driver was helping us to get more information. So actually, you want to already walk halfway to the van. It's from the house to the van. It takes some time for this lady to walk and to prepare herself. But unfortunately, we're told that that day, we split our group, and there's no the help post. They call it the help post. It's not open. Okay. At the same time, we have another group that to remember the roof is leaking. Now this is the house. This is the zinc. This is the thing. So it's very flimsy. Very flimsy. How to identify? So we have these young volunteers. Many of them, the young boys. They help, and they have brilliant idea via how to get the water. Actually, in these villages, they don't have proper infrastructure like water. The basic necessities, they don't have amenities, they don't have. So we have this Bishal is another young volunteer. aspiring city volunteer. So we how he used this method, going to the neighbor, coming out and pumping. We from the down, we pump the water. This is the pipe water, and using the rope to bring it out to let him. He has the brilliant idea of splashing the water over to this Sumitra house. This is the. Sorry, I will not play the video. So after identifying the thing, so this is all these things that we do 1V1C, caring. Actually, it's caring for them and collecting data at the same time. So we want to solve the, at one hand, we want to solve the roof, and the second one is to bring this Sumitra to see a doctor. So all this happen on different days and different, because have to suit the local the conditions, whether the health force is open. So we went to, once we identified the leaking roof, the spot, because we ourselves have to go inside the roof there to under the roof while the young boy Bishop splashing the water, we see where the water drip, So this is my first experience doing this. So after that, we went to, I think that was already past 5:30. On our way back to hotel, then we want to solve this and how to repair the roof. So this driver is very compassionate. Nazo, the driver is very compassionate, follow us and bring us along to each shop that he knows, because he's a local, which shop to get this thing. So coincidentally, we went to this shop. It's about, just as we arrived, the boss step in, just come to open the door. So coincident, everything, huh? So we look around. Actually, I was looking around because in Malaysia, we very big issue, the roof leaking. So we need to buy whatever, in my mind. But actually, this sealant. So this sealant recommended by this boss. So I was thinking, is it workable? Will it work or not? How to repair that? But sometimes we shouldn't doubt. We should trust the instinct of people. So this local boss, when he saw us in blue, he was saying that, oh, you're from Malaysia. So you see how precious our uniform is. So he recommended this when we explained the condition of the leaking roof of that lady, the villager. So he recommended this. I said, I was wondering whether is it work or not, a small spot. So he said, okay, actually, when we go for mapping, we don't carry much money, local currency. We don't carry much. So during that day, so happened I was carrying 75 Nepalese, the balance from somewhere else, buying a grocery or what. So I was carrying 75. But when we found this sealant, we were very happy, at least something can be done for the villager. So this boss told us that it's 80 Nepalese. Oh my God, in my mind I was saying, I only have 75. What to do? I will have to go back to our hotel, and when we go back to the hotel, it will close, So this boss, the shopkeeper, she said that since you are Sachi and blue uniform, I know you guys what you're doing. You see, this is the power of one village, one community. I know you guys are doing. You're entering the village, even to extreme weather, use sandstorm and all that. You enter to help our local people. So okay, now I give you discount 75. So exactly in my pocket was 75, but in my backpack was 75. So I hand over to him. So actually he shared with us very likely that he was once upon a time he worked in Malaysia. So there's a connection, the community. So happily we bought this. And we call it sealant. So you see how high is the roof, So we thought very easy with this material, we can just seal the area, but this is a very vulnerable roof. And of course, the villagers say that you can't, and she cooked right behind, right underneath this spot, when we identify that. So how to seal it? So this is another things that 1V1C does for the villagers, concern, love, and so eventually we have this boy. He's taller than the rest, so he offered to help So all by the time it attracted the villagers from all over, they come over. What are we doing in this place? This house. So this is where, okay. So the other boys, when we saw it, this is right under this boy. He came. He didn't just woke up, then he came, he saw us. And this is the lady. This is the spot where she's cooking. And this is where we were going to seal the roof. So another boy saw us. He ran home, he ran home to carry a chair. This is chair to help. Because the bamboo, you will see this area, there's a ladder. We got a ladder, but the ladder is made of bamboo, but the steps are being tied with cloth fabric. So how can it support? So it's very dangerous. So in city, we know that safety is very important, even though we are very enthusiastic to help others, but safety is very important, and also to protect the house so that it will not collapse. So this and then at the same time, another group, we will bring this lady to see a doctor. So she has to walk, from her house to the van outside waiting. It's quite a distance for someone which have a mobility problem. So myself and Sister Su Ching went to accompany them at one point. So we are doing actually in action from morning to, in action in the villages, from morning to evening to resolve whatever we can do and to collect data at the same time. Yeah, this is a formation. So we went to the hospital. The health post, they call it, it's a very small. So there are many procedures. So this is where the patient, we bring in this Sumitra to see the data. It's just one table, nothing else. And you thought that our clinic, you have this very proper thing, but here is just one table, one lady, and the high blood pressure or whatever that they check is just one. That is, when we look at it, it's like it's many how many years ago those things, and it's not clean, So one thing, how so at least we're sending love to one village, one community program. You are able to see actually what are the villages, what they are lack of, how to help them. So collect this data for our to hand it to the office for the next mission at charity or medical or education to follow up. But this is very important. Later, so while waiting for this very funny room, just one patient, we thought that the doctor or so or the medical will attend to this. But in the next minute, we'll see so many people pouring into this compact room. Was wondering why, wondering why so many people, while this lady, this doctor, so-called doctor or nurse is talking to this our villager that we brought her in. So there are many people all waiting and everybody speaking at the same time. So how is it? So this is all another eye-opening that Lumbini, in this area, they're also short of medical. So this is, can see this Indra Cash is a very young boy. It's a semester break. He also join us, bring us here, accompany us to this help post. So people are wondering that two of us, Sister Su Ching and myself, and this Indra Cash, the young boy, they're asking, hey, why you bring a lady here? How are you connected and all that? So she asked the boy, actually, Indra Cash, this local, he's now not connected to this, no blood relation with this villager Sumitra. So this is you see how caring and sharing inspire one another, even the local. So while waiting for the medicine, we give the lady a rub because she's in pain. So we thought that we solved the thing when the doctor gave the list of medicine, but again, another problem surfaced. The health post, also called clinic, do not have the medicine, one of the medicine. So they pointed to the opposite building that we have to drive over or run over to get it, to buy from the so-called pharmacy. So again, we went there. There's no stock. So what to do? So we thought that we'll go to other area, around the town to look for this medicine for this lady. So we went to four places to look for this ibuprofen, so-called, is to solve the fever. So I thought it's very expensive. Oh my God, I didn't carry much money. But the driver, another driver, because different time entering the village is different driver that will leave us at the entrance. So he saw us, so concerned, so he brought us until we check in the third pharmacy after driving around town. It's only after the third, then we managed to get this so-called ibuprofen, the tablets for this lady to solve her pain. And the driver offer himself to pay. So you see, it's not easy. Live in Lumbini villages. This is one. So on the way back, we have to bring her back, right, to her house again. But the roads, the van cannot enter, vehicle cannot enter except motorbike. So actually, we are walking. From the entrance to the house is very far, very far. When we enter villages, we have to walk every day. These are the pebble holes and all that. So she's in pain, and we're wondering, because in city, we want to lessen people's pain and suffering, right? This is also one of our charity mission and medical mission. So this is how we walk her in after so happy that we get the medicine that she may eventually get healed. So we have this another group was doing our mapping, the local volunteers at the same time. So we gather, they saw us. So happened this another villager, he has a motorbike because they are rushing there from the office. They rush, they also joined the mapping. So he gave a lift for this lady to reach to her a ride to her house. So this is what caring about continues. And we continue to care for these people here, this Lakshmi pool, in various ways. We also know the culture that they are cow dung. Most of them, they do the cow dung and mix it with the mud and stick it on the wall. This is very precious to them. So we learn something, and caring continue not only from the first after finishing the solving their medical or the roof problem. We thought we never stop there. We continue as and when we enter this same village. If we are entering the same village, we'll still drop by to all the houses that we have mapped. So this is again on and off. We will know what is happening to the villagers. So this is one way of sending love and care. So another thing at the same time, we also 1B, 1C, one village, one community is doing some bonding, some activity, rice bank collection, rice bank distribution to spread the thing. So this is the place being offered to us. It's nearby the school, one of the school, and it's at the end of the village. So when the vehicle enter, we will have to stop somewhere, the first quarter of the road, and then we have to walk in with all our things to walk to this place. So this is when you see here that time Sister Lily have joined us already that week. In fact, this is another program that we bond with the villagers of Lashpipur. Actually, we won 4. This is one of the thing, and the weather was 43, and there was no electricity, nothing. So we have to borrow the local one. They have to borrow or try to connect from neighbor. Even many of the people don't have electricity, not have power. So the condition inside this house built is offered by the local one of the local villager, well-respected head of village head. So inside is very, very, very hot. So we try to find things to fan the people. We're afraid the people will leave, you see. Sorry, I think my time is getting off. So now we see that we help one another, our rice bank, and this is the mission of sending of love, and how we send and we identify which family have a short of medical things help. So along the way, we'll visit all these villages. Yeah, I think my time is coming out. So we also have this planning bonding with the villager on a Saturday morning, where you think that bread is a very normal food item, but in Lumbini is a luxury item. So many people come in for this. The activity that we carry out, sending love, you can see so many people come to join. Yeah. So these are some of the memories, footprints that we have setting into Lumbini, the rice bank. People are so enthusiastic to join later when they know. So they actually were very familiar with each other. So when we prepare for each bonding, we will have to set up, and we can see that villagers, the young boys and all, they are willing to come and help. So at times, so villagers were also willing to come to the hotel here to do the mapping. We are guided by the local. So this is another footprint that we are so happy when we are there. The visit day was on 2 days later from the original official visit day in Malaysia. So we have the opportunity to visit set of footprints there and to see how local people celebrate. And at the same time, we also bond with the other villagers, village boys, and bonding with them. Each time they join us, we will bring them out. So you can see that many young volunteers, they aspire. They always tell us during our bonding, when we ask them questions, linger with them, what do you want to be? They always, majority will say, I want to be like you. I want to be Su Ching volunteers, like all of you. And some will say, I want to be a policeman, I want to be a teacher. So these are what we do, sending love and concern to the villagers. So helping one person might not change the world, but it could change the world for one person. Yeah, I believe that. So I'll drop this. I'll end my sharing here. During this sending love to the 4 villagers in Lumbini, during the span of time of within 1 month, I believe that it has brought breadth and depth in my life, adding value. This program is a very good program, even though it's under adverse weather. At least I know I've gone through, I experienced. When the going is tough, people say the tough gets going. It's a mission to serve the Buddha land. So what it has helped me to have grown my patience and endurance. It reflects the values of our life to benefit others, and spending time doing good deeds, sharing good words, good stories, and at the same time aligned to Su Ching values. So my sharing within half hour, sorry. Of course, there are many, many more heartwarming stories. And take this opportunity to thank everyone for listening. Cảm ơn. I'll hand it back to Brother Chin and for the next sharer. Cảm ơn.
Sister Effie, is Sister Lily going to share?
Yes, she's sharing now.
Okay, wonderful.
7 o'clock. Yes. Cảm ơn.
Good morning, brothers and sisters around the globe. My name is Lily. So I'll be sharing the footprint in Lumbini. I was there from 28th of May to 11th of June, about 2 weeks. So this is from the flight before landing. We have took the photo. This is Lumbini and this is Kathmandu. So we can see that Kathmandu is a capital city and a highly populated and a very congested city, while Lumbini is a agriculture land. Okay, and then so I find that Lumbini is close to the nature. Because when we are there, we can see like there are many animals around, like the sheep, goats, in the village, and also on the road, and the cars have to watch out for these goats, or sometimes the cows also, or the buffaloes also will be on the road. And because that time that we went, it was very hot. So the paddy fields all these are the paddy fields all have been harvested and dried, and we can see the women carrying the woods for cooking, to make fire for cooking, and this is how the villagers get the water from. So at least most of the houses or all the villages will have access to the water. They have water supply, but they have to come out to pump the water. But some of the houses who are more wealthy, they have electric pump. Yeah. Okay. And the for me and my home brother, we went together, and it's for the 1V1C mission, the one village and one community. So these are the outcome of the mapping. So from the picture of taken from the flight, so we can see like these are all the villages, the small villages. So it is mapped in this manner. So with this mapping, then it will ease like the identification of the villages for city activities, or if any aid required, like education, food or medicine. Yeah. And also spreading the seeds of love and care in the villages. So we have activities we will be able to inform them. Okay, so we have actually like putting the house numbers, assign the house numbers, so it will ease our future city volunteers to carry out activities to identify them. So this is the 4 villages that we have accomplished. I have only started. I have joined for the Patijaya. The first 3 have been completed by Sister Effie and Sister Su Ching. So we able to know like how many houses, how many households, their family, and if they have adopted the rice bank, or they want to or they have they want to request for the rice bank. And so for the 1V1C, so what do we do? So we go house to house. So we collect the household details, like just now I mentioned, the number of families and so on. Okay. So from this exercise, we got to know most of the villages, those that have medical condition, we will take note of it, and we will zoom in with further home visits and then assessment and provide information and advice and aid if required. So some of the family, they really need help, and we go in and further to home visits. And if really need to, then we'll write, our local volunteers will write the assessment, the referral letter for the charity team to go further to get more detailed information on what they really need. So generally the household has all the basic needs up from my observation. They have water, food, clothes, and shelter at their house. So most of them have electricity, but low voltage, like it's more for like the light bulb, fans, and a few have television. And they have land to plant their vegetables and paddy. So they lead a simple life. They may live in poverty, usually is due to their medical condition. So our local volunteers, they have to learn to speak the villages dialect. Like maybe here we in Malaysia, we have like Cantonese, Hokkien, that kind of the dialects. So they maybe they don't know Hakka. Maybe let's say that I cannot remember what is the name of the dialect over there. So these local volunteers, they need to learn their dialects so that they can communicate with them. So for us, actually, we are like supporting role. We are not able to communicate with the villagers without the help of our local volunteers there. Okay, so it's a great effort from the local volunteers. And through the 1B1C, right? So we have identified these villagers, Santa Bali, who has a medical condition. So Su Ching have provided food and education aid for this family. So here you can see we provided the 25 kg rice, 1 liter oil, and 1 kg salt, and 2 kg of flour, and also the dal. And we also find out that her daughter, 15-year-old daughter, didn't go to school due to the financial issue. So our Su Ching volunteers have quickly invited them to our Su Ching office to make the uniform. So our Su Ching office actually, we have this a group of volunteers who able to, there's a sewing machine, there are many sewing machines, there are sewing class over there. So the uniform is actually made by them. So this girl went to the Su Ching office and take the measurement, and after some time the uniform are ready. So we give them 2 sets of uniform, school bags, and also notebooks, and also pens. So it is like presenting to them in a respectful manner. So very rejoicing to see that these young girls can return to school again. Pastor said, education gives hope to family and society. Yeah. Next, this is in Amaganj, the village Amaganj. So previously they have adopted the rice bank container. So we have went there to collect the rice bank, which they have filled up with the rice. So how do we identify, like this actually is at one of the villagers' house. So usually when we go for the mapping, we will try to identify which are the potential place that we can hold the activity. So like this house, in front there are ample space, and there are trees, and it's not hot, so it serves as a shelter for us. So we have seek permission from the village, this house owner, that if we can have it here, the activity. So they are very kind and open heart. They have allowed us to have the activity over here. So we have to put the mat on the ground for everyone to sit on, and there are usually many children and women. There are very few men. If they were men, they will be like sitting further away from us. So they'll be standing and watching us. Okay. So so this activity actually is hosted by our local volunteers. So these local volunteers are well trained by the overseas volunteers. So they call us overseas volunteers. So we are from Malaysia and also from Singapore. Yeah. So these are overseas volunteers actually have trained them, and they pick up very fast, and they interact, and then also we have some acting as well. The skit of 7 giving with our body that is free of charge, like giving a smile, help the blind and physical help like carrying heavy stuff and so on. So this is to spread the seeds of goodness to the villagers, nurture the loving kindness. And by going to the villages, we could understand their needs. So over here in Lumbini, when they provided the rice bank, so we will weigh how much the weight of this rice container, and will issue receipts to them. So okay, you can see the young and the young girls, young boys, and also women who came and lined up and then donated the rice over to the big gunny sack here. Okay. Okay, so this is Amaganji. And next, okay, from the rice collected from the same village. So this is the house owner of this house. So he have recommended that we give the rice that have been collected here to a poor family. So the next day, we went to this house, which is actually just next to the house of this house owner. Okay, so we can see the house is very small, and actually there are like 4 or 5 people in the family, but it cannot fit in. So we saw these 2 beds here outside the house. So we learned that in the evening or at night, they will actually sleep outside here because the house is too small to accommodate many people. So so sometime if it's because at night it may be cold, and if it's raining also they will get wet. So this is how they are leading their life. So here, before we gave the rice to them, so our local volunteers, Tusa and Vivek, they will do a assessment, collect information from them. So it's like an emergency distribution of rice to this family. So sometimes they don't have rice, they don't have food to eat. So they have only his aging father went to work, and it's odd jobs, and the son actually have some medical condition. So finally we have given them half of the rice that we have collected to this family. So we can see that villagers help the needy villagers, raise the heart of loving kindness, and hope that this cycle of love will continue in this village. Okay. Okay, and then we have next villages, this Apatijaya. So this is the last village that we have done, completed the mapping, and this is the first activity in this village where we introduce Siji and also rice bank, the rice bank spirit to them. So again, to spread the seeds of goodness, the loving kindness, to encourage them to give and help others. So here, okay, normally after each of the activity, we will have a post review to find out what are the challenges and how to improve the situation. So we have experienced once where actually over to the Amaganji, the village, the rice bank collection, while after completed the rice bank collection, we serving them some food. So it's like not in orderly manner. The children come, they are not queuing up and like very chaotic. So we learn from that. So our local volunteers, Tosa, okay, you can see here the children. This is Tosa. So Sister Tusa will play game with them to so that the children are here while the parents they will queue up and then we will serve them the food. After the adult the parents have completed, then only we invite the children to be here and we guided them like, okay, you must queue up, and then they queue up. And yeah, so this was more organized, and we learn from every activities to improve the flow. Yeah, okay. And from the Tzu Chi activities, Tzu Chi volunteers are actually paving the Tzu Chi path over at the village and lead the villagers to create blessings. In fact, helping others is to benefit others and also ourselves. And with these activities, hope that the villagers can help each other to cultivate compassion, wisdom, and blessings. And for us, we as a volunteer, we be a good role model for others to follow, because all these villagers are actually watching us on what we are doing. So we have to be a good role model, our behavior, our characters, the way we talk, and so on. Okay. And then another village, Jamuhi, we after the normal activities, then we have this cleaning the environment. So this is the first time we have this collecting rubbish from the villagers environment. So at first the villagers, they are not so keen. So all majority that joined us were children. So we guided the children, and then we lead by example. We bend down and collect the rubbish on the ground, and some actually have been like planted on the ground, and we have to pull it out, the plastic bags, and then sometimes got some clothes. Okay, so we show them, okay, see, we have to clean, and then so that it will not be planted into the ground, all this rubbish. Okay, oh, almost 70. Okay. And okay, so the adults are watching. So some of them noted and agree, and then after that, they notice the environment is cleaner. So it's like the spirit of bamboo bank. Start with something and accumulate the act of goodness and love in the villages. So it will accumulate, and hopefully this will help the village to become cleaner. And okay, the 1V, 1C also, the mats, remember the children or the villagers will sit on. So so our hotel staff actually help to clean as well. So it is also like part of volunteering as well, this hotel staff. Okay, so from here, as we are walking the Tzu Chi path, we serve in the masses. So we practice and nurture our body, speech and mind with purity, create positive energy in self and others. So we say good words, do good deeds, and think good thoughts. So this is like upholding the precepts. And we also have affinities with the local volunteers and the villagers. So that's why we are able to meet them. So it's like a Dharma family. And going out to meet villagers to understand the life of others, it opens our horizon of view. So more open-minded, so we can understand different place, they have different way of life. compared to our in Malaysia, how we live and how they live, they are different. Yeah. So for them, I feel it's like very close to the nature, have a simple life and not much of distraction. They are more pure. And we have to like repeat the activities continuously over there in Lumbini. So to recruit of potential volunteers, develop harmonious and peaceful environment in the villages and community. And the Buddha's teaching is intangible. There is no appearance, and it is eternal. So guiding human in doing good, in doing wholesome deeds. So these are like doing the right action and following the principle or the Buddha's teaching. So it's an appearance that we can see. So do good, no evil, and save all living beings. So these are the things that we can see from externally, which we have to be like a good role model for others. So all this actually creating blessings and wisdom. Okay, that's all for my sharing. 感恩 for listening.
感恩 Sister Lily. Thank you, Sister Effie and Sister Lily, for a wonderful, heartwarming sharing. And I believe that is this the first time you went to Lumbini, for both of you?
Yeah,
Right.
for me it's first time.
Yes, first time.
What was the first impression when you arrived?
Very, very simple.
Very simple area, very simple
Yeah.
place.
Right, yeah.
Can't see beyond the airport. And then we are asked to take the picture. Later, few days later, the office asked us for a photo that to prove that we have landed in Lumbini. I said, oh my God, we are in Lumbini now. We meet each other. Why you need a photo? Then they say, that airport that you arrive, do you go to there's a place, the Buddha? I said, no images of Buddha. The Buddha place, that image was at the corner outside, So that is considered a landmark. So we remind when Sister Lily about to come, we tell Sister Lily, hey, Sister Lily, you must go there and take a photo to prove that we are here. So that's an important landmark for future overseas volunteer.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, my trips to Lumbini has always been on the road. So it was a very long journey from Kathmandu there, and so very fortunate that you're flew there. Otherwise, it'd take a really long bus ride. Okay, so next, so gotten so much both the sisters and I trust that you'll be returning there at some point in time, or maybe to Bodh
Yeah, I have to return.
Wonderful. So next we have all the way from Malaysia to Lumbini. Now we're gonna head to the US to Sister Tiffany Liu, from a very illustrious Su Ching family who are great benefactors to us in Malaysia. So, Sister Tiffany, I understand you're from Taiwan, but you're now residing in the US. I'm not sure which part of the US you are in, though. But I hand over
Yes,
to
hello. Hi, everybody. I'm actually based in, so I lived in, I'll go into my background a little bit during our sharing, but I actually reside now in Northern California in a little area called San Jose in Silicon Valley.
Okay. So you're many hours behind us, and must be into the day for you. Now, or rather night for you. Now, you're going to share with us the metamorphosis of turning pain into purpose. I'm not really clear what you're sharing, but based on the title, I guess you're telling us about what's the meaning of pain, making pain. All right, the platform is all yours. You have an hour.
you. Let me, I'm going to share my screen, but let's see if this works. Could you let me know if you see my screen?
Yep, like we can see.
Okay, perfect. Well, dear Master Chen Yan, and to our Dharma masters at the abode, and of course to all my Dharma Bodhisattva family here. Good morning to you all. My goodness, so diligent. Been up since I think 6:30 in the morning, right? So super early for you. And I'm so super grateful for this opportunity to be here and sharing at the invitation of Sister Su Ching. And I wanted to, kind of start by saying that this is something that I just actually gave a talk, a sharing on with Seattle, and it was for for just the general people, the public who are not people who are maybe still learning about Siji. So definitely not as cultivated and as deep as many of you. So I apologize in advance if this seems perhaps not the more traditional Tsuji sharing, but I've been toying with the idea of how to communicate a lot of our Dharma in a little slightly different way that would be, that would help build the bridge. And so through my own sharing and what kind of came around why I was thinking about metamorphosis is because just about, I want to say a month ago, I live here in the mountains. And one day when I was walking into the garage, I was greeted surprisingly by a swarm of butterflies, like hundreds of them, just all around, everywhere, covering almost every inch of the windows and the walls. It was such a scene. I took a photo and I shared it to my father, who said, well, this means something, whatever it is. So I sat to think about it, and the notion of metamorphosis came to me. And so I hope that my sharing today will resonate with you in a bit. Because when I was looking at the butterfly, and some in different sizes, I sort of imagined this butterfly coming out of its chrysalis, right? Its delicate wings unfurling for the very first time. And for all of us, this metamorphosis, transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly, is this very universal symbol of transformation, and embodies this profound change that we all hope to achieve, from maybe a mundane being to a bodhisattva, maybe like a master. And not too long ago, I had a friend. Her name is Dr. Tara Marie, and she is a very world famous resilient leader. She focuses on resilience, and she gave a talk in her now very famous TED Talk, and she said, imagine all of us carrying this imaginary piece of paper that reads, people would think I'm crazy if they knew ... And we have to complete that sentence. And I feel like this encapsulates this very fundamental truth about resilience and how it ties in with this butterfly that I saw, which is that the secrets that we keep, the parts of us that we hide, often holds the key to our greatest transformation. Now, prior to before dedicating my career to as a bodhisattva, so in my former life, I was a transformational executive here in Silicon Valley. I worked with startups, Fortune 500s, and IPO tech companies. And so I first witnessed firsthand how many times, confronting these hidden parts, whether it's in business or within ourselves, can be this catalyst for a profound change, just like that caterpillar that has to go into a very dormant and dark phase to come out a butterfly. That the same happens to us, that when we greet our concealed truth, we also can embark on this very significant metamorphosis. So that's what I wanted to dive into, about this journey of how do we turn pain into power and purpose, and how when we start to embrace these, we also emerge as a butterfly. I think this notion, you asked a great point earlier, is like, maybe we'll talk a little bit about pain. Pain, I think, is the same as suffering. Buddha, in the word actually suffering, is around the concept of holy truth. And it's this universal experience that binds us all. And sometimes you will ask, well, what is suffering? Because if I'm in the United States, so when I talk about suffering, people kind of look at me like, wait, what do you mean? Life is great, right? Like, what do you mean by we're in suffering? And so I like to think of suffering based on Buddha's teaching, which is that suffering is really any moment of our experience in our life that is different than what we want it to be. So, if I'm craving for vanilla ice cream and all I have is chocolate, then perhaps I would be in suffering too. And so, I think this journey from suffering into power and purpose is all that we can take, regardless of where we are in our life. And Master Chen Yan has always said that, just as a lotus flower that rises from the mud, that beauty can also emerge from pain. And this is the theme that I want to talk about, is how pain is really the seed of power. And what is the secret ingredient that unlocks it in my personal experience and my journey as a disciple with Master is about love being that ingredient of transformation. And I feel like nowadays science is really proving a lot of what Buddha and Dharma Master has already said. So scientific research actually supports this notion. I don't know if many of you might be familiar. There's this psychologist by the name of Dr. Richard Tedeschi. He works on post-traumatic growth. And he did a study and revealed that the individuals who actually go and confront their work through pain, they actually emerge stronger, more resilient. They even find a deeper sense of meaning and their purpose in their life. So this is what I like to coin things to help me remember. So I call this the Metamorphosis model, a sort of framework to actually guide my own daily metamorphosis and changes. And it actually requires 3 stages. I call it the ATE. The first is acknowledgement. So recognizing and accepting of what shows up and what is in our lives. So if there's a saying that if what resists persists, then what is accepted transforms. The second is transformation. So breaking through that fear membrane, whatever it is we want to bury, suppress, escape, repress from, and working through that and discovering our hidden truths. And then the third, but not least, is an empowerment, how we then use these truths to then fuel our purpose and our power. And so today I'm going to use my own struggles, how that led to my personal metamorphosis, and why I chose to give up a very high-paying salary as an executive here in Silicon Valley 5 years ago to surrender my life to service, and what I've learned about transformation and this power of hope. Okay, so let's dive in. I totally forgot to share my screen. I got to remember that I have. So I want to share. So on the surface, my life may look perfect. I know I had friends who were like, "Oh, well, this is great. You're a successful leader in Fortune 50. You were once an executive of an IPO tech company. By the time I was 30, I had then made it into the executive rank at Hewlett Packard, HP, as one of the youngest executives then of color, running a multi-million-dollar business unit with a global team. I was also once an exited startup founder for a tech company that was sold to one of the US largest student coaching company when I was 29. I graduated from top tier, So everything that I think society would say, oh, you need to have on the resume. And of course, people in Suzhou say, oh, your parents are such an inspiration and a role model. And so for the outside world, it seemed like I was doing great, healthy, vibrant. I'm a tax-paying homeowner. But what people didn't know was that inside, I was struggling with something much darker. And so when I was young, one of the truth is I am a suicide attempt survivor. Many people do not know that. But despite all the apparent success and the privilege in my younger years, and this is, many, many decades ago, I found myself really unable to bear the crushing weight of my own expectations and the fear of failure. And sometimes that shame was so overwhelming that ending my life seemed like a relief at times. And looks and bias may deceive, but numbers don't lie. I know that here in the United States, it's a very big problem. 63% of adults, I think 18 to 24, they report anxiety, depression, and or both. And a quarter of them even have mentioned that they would consider taking their lives. But this is not just, mental health is not just a crisis amongst the youth. It's actually affecting all age. I know that, even I was looking up some stats for Taiwan and Malaysia, and they were saying that, according to the National Institute of Health, 45.4% just last year of the people surveyed, they had talked about that they had experienced heightened levels of loneliness and suicidality coming out of COVID. Malaysia is also the same. And I think mental health is now becoming such a crisis and inner pandemic of our time. And so I think we're now living in a world where inner pandemic can be deceiving. Many people put on the facade of success, but actually mask some sort of internal struggle. And so, despite my achievements in my 20s, I was also part of this alarming trend. So, fast forward 20 years later, or so my 40s, about 3 years ago, I decided to turn my pain into purpose. And so, working with Su Ching, I founded a Soul Seated, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, then dedicating to helping at-risk youth in low-income communities to help wholeness. At that time, I turned down a lucrative job, and I embarked on a new adventure. But it was funny because my expertise up until the time that I had quit was in transformation. So I was, my job is to see possibilities in chaos, carving new paths, harnessing people's power. And yet I couldn't for the life of me figure out, how do I apply this in my own life, until I met with my deepest fears. And so I want to share how this quarter came about. And my story actually, and so people would ask, well, how does a very, timid Chinese girl go to accomplish that, only to leave it all and to walk the Bodhisattva path? So and there's a precondition always for crisis. So my story begins in Taipei, Taiwan, where I grew up. And you can tell by the pictures how much I love amazing food. It was filled with very sweet memories. From a very young age, because I grew up in a Tzu family, my parents always wanted to instill in me what they call like real values. And for my parents, it was three things. One, it was your character. Two, it was filial piety. You had to be very 孝顺, right? And then the third, of course, is in Tzu is the impact that we create for humanity. And I still remember when I was 10, my mom and my dad, who was volunteering at that time in Malacca, my mom came up to me, and they were telling me, she said, Xiao, we had just immigrated to Malaysia from Taiwan. And I just started going to international school. And so my mom said to my nickname, which is Xiaowen. So she would say, Xiaowen, success is not about power and wealth and position, all these things that you're learning in school. I really worry about you. From now on, like, I want you to experience a true value with us. So then she went on and on about how our responsibility in life is to do like the greatest amount of good for humanity. And at that time, she stressed a piece of wisdom that I didn't understand. She said, an enlightened life means knowing how to give and create blessings for oneself and for others. Meanwhile, my 10-year-old self, I've just immigrated to Malaysia. I'm going to an American international school. I'm soaking up everything, the American culture had to offer. And of course, I don't know how many, I might be dating myself, but, back then it was like Beverly Hills 90210. I'm in my 40s. So I was dreaming about what the experience would be like, from that perspective, right? Living in Beverly Hills. So I got excited. But my parents had a very different plan. So instead of taking us on like exotic, vacations, like other kids from the school, who were going to the Philippines, right, to the islands in Malaysia, they took us to like, these orphanages. I remember like relief sites and the back of your factory, because according to my mom's wisdom, she says the best vacations are these like fields of blessing, these Hualien, where you can grow, you can cultivate your blessings, and then you can also experience life's truths. So ever since my parents had joined Siji, our life has really gone through a tremendous transformation. They particularly emphasize this philosophy of appreciating blessings through witnessing suffering and integrating Buddhist teachings to help us understand the true meaning of life. And now I remember, you can see if the bottom right and bottom left photo, this was in Malacca. And I was 12 years old when my sister and I first went with my parents to help clean this facility. It was a abandoned convalescent home by the government. And, the stench was so overwhelming. And, it was a particularly rundown place. I guess I should first mention that. So the elderly residents who lived there, it was in a very dire condition. Most of them were all either abandoned from their family, or they didn't even have a family at all. So they were immobile, really unable to care for themselves. And so the place was shockingly dirty and decrepit. It's hard to imagine how anyone could live there. Although I feel like we're among so many bodhisattvas, I think you would know what that is like. But for a 12-year-old, that was a little difficult. And I remember witnessing a volunteer fainting from it when they had opened the door from the stench. And and I still remember, in the spirit of respect, my father had mentioned that we are not allowed to wear masks, that we must treat each of the care recipients as our own family. And as my sister and I, our eyes are, wide open in shock, going, "Oh no, you're not going to ask me to go in there." My mother, with her great wisdom, sort of looked at me and said, "Shawan, I'll give you a choice. Do you want to prepare lunch, or would you like to clean the toilets?" And I thought to myself, okay, like, is this a trick question? Like, of course, right? I would choose to prepare lunch. I don't know how many of you would choose to prepare lunch over cleaning the bathroom. But if you chose to prepare lunch like me, then I guess I'll let you know that you've also been tricked. Because when I said that, my mother immediately responded that that master teaches us that the things that we like to do sometimes aren't the things that we should. We don't want to, we need to do, and we need to do that until our hearts are balanced, until until it's balance and equanimity. So off you go to clean the bathrooms. So this was Tzu wisdom in action. So I always remember this because it was such a, I don't want to say traumatizing, but definitely a very vivid experience. And now I can reflect back to understand, wow, we'd be amazed at what we gain when we welcome and embrace instead of resist and refuse the challenge in life that sets us free. So I have a personal motto now, which is like, embrace the struggle and uncover the strength, right? So throughout the next decade, even as we immigrated to the United States at 14, my parents would always strategically find ways for us to sow and give love together as a family. So our summer and spring breaks, like other college kids, or we weren't going to Italy or Paris or anything like that. And I was going to places like San Juan Tepezonte, El Salvador. My parents would emphasize again and again, like, The Lu's family legacy, as Master taught, is to pass on compassion, right? That's priceless and eternal. And so my parents, in walking the talk, they did the same thing. They shut down their factory. They forsook their business and devoted their life to also helping others. So I grew up in this Siji parents. These are my parents. So the truth is, I struggled big time. I think many Sugu and Sipo when I was younger would always say, "Oh, you're so fortunate to be born in this family," which I can appreciate now. But when I was younger, it was very difficult because this was a very stark contrast to the values that my sister and I grew up in the American culture or the Western culture. So by the time I was 16, I was living in Southern California, and I had already gone to 13 different schools between Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, and then now the United States. And at that time, I had many different experiences through shifting through so many different schools that I learned that these skills that my mom had taught me, which I understand now, that came from master, like zhouran, right? The softness. That didn't really bring me any new friends. It attracted a lot of bullies. So I went through my childhood actually going through many bullies, and this open-heartedness. It only invited many ridicule for me, acts of kindness. I remember when I was at school, I would pick up my lunch to sit with Amir Wahab, who is, then the school loner, and that ended up, becoming, my fate. So I ended up spending many of the school year eating alone, right? Because I befriended. So I started to learn that these experiences created a sense of the fact that I felt like, oh, I wasn't good enough. And so, I remember by the time that I was, 34 in my 30s, this not enough was a belief of mine. And it felt that I needed to prove myself all the time. I needed to validate myself, and that was very exhausting and fulfillment. And I share this story because I know that many young people, until they have found true values within themselves, have also understood that needed a lot to search externally from our society, from our career, from anything else, just to substantiate our values. So I was definitely a victim of that. And so, but one turning point for me was when I was 34. I remember sitting in my office floor looking at my 10-year plan. I was very good at charting my life, 1, 3, 5, 10. And I remember looking at that list going, wow, I've checked off every single thing, right? I achieved what I wanted to do with my career. But there was one thing that I didn't check off, and that was this feeling of not being enough. And I thought to myself, well, how could that be, right? Success, as society and culture teaches us, is right, better job, more money, big house, but none of those brought me happiness. So on the outside, it seemed like I was doing well, but on the inside, I knew I wasn't. There was a misalignment, and I felt like this was a profound low point, a stark realization that maybe what I have built is nothing more than a hollow shell devoid of its truth and purpose. And so on March 18th, 2018, 5 years ago, fate intervened in a form of a very devastating accident. I was in Los Angeles for work, and in a second, the trajectory of my life was just altered as a distracted driver who was driving down the road, plowed into our car and leaving us sandwiched between two cars. And so this impact was very jarring for me because it left my friend with a head trauma and me with lower back pains, and I was emotionally rattled. And as we sat in the hospital emergency room, I think the gravity started to sink in. The police words echoed in my mind, and that we were very lucky to be alive. And so he explained how positioning the car's engine in the back versus in the front had likely saved us from a very catastrophic explosion. And so this was the twist moment, because in that moment of vulnerability, I felt the fragility of life that Master talked about had never before, of life being impermanent. It was as if that moment, this veil of invincibility that was lifted, and I was face to face with the reality of Wu Tang, of impermanence. And so this accident really served as a catalyst for me. It forced me to confront that stark misalignment between the external accomplishments and then also my heart's knowing. And it was this wake up call, this unmistakable sign, okay, that I can't ignore this gaping chasm of who I thought I was supposed to be versus who I long to become, which is someone who helps others. And when I was a very young kid, I always said to my mom, Mom, I want to be a 救人的人, like somebody who helps others. And so finally, that moment was where really courage emerged as this, what I call like my heart's triumph over my mind. Because for so long, my mind goes, well, what about this? What about money? What about career? You know, all these things that the mind ruminates about. And so for me now, courage is by two definitions. One is when our heart triumphs over our mind, and courage is also when we know we should do the things without the universe kind of kicking us in the rear. And so 6 months later, I made that life-altering decision to walk away from what I believe now is the 诱惑, right? The trappings of corporate success. And so to embark on this journey of self-discovery. And so for the first time in 37 years, I intentionally embraced the unknown. I was lost on purpose, and I wanted to seek to answer what Master always teaches us, which is like, what does it truly mean to live well? How do you live a life of value? And so, of course, my quest led me to many different far corners of the earth. And I spent even twice, actually, but last year, 6 months living in Hualien, studying, observing, following Master Chen Yan in Hualien, and then also volunteering in various communities and going to Nepal as well. And I definitely want to go to India. But each experience and each encounter had offered a very new perspective for me on what is the true nature of life and our greatness. And so I've come to realize that transformation of any kind isn't about becoming someone new. And the same is our transformation from a mundane being to an enlightened bodhisattva. It's about rediscovering and unearthing our true self. So Master always talks about returning back to that purity and the undefined self. So whenever I talk to younger folks who ask me, what does it mean to find yourself? I always tell them, well, let me tell you what it isn't. And so I always say that, we aren't this like $10 bill in last winter's coat pocket that we have to go like dig up, because we're actually not lost. Master always says, we're not lost. We're just buried and covered in our own afflictions. And so our true self is just right there under all of, cultural conditioning, our own afflictions that arise as an inaccurate conclusion about who we believe we are. And so here in the States, there's a very famous psychologist that I love. His name is Dr. Gabor Mate. He's a very well-renowned trauma and addiction specialist. And he said, much of what we call personality is actually not a fixed set of traits. It's actually a lot of coping mechanisms that a person that we acquire as a child, and now we call personality. And so transformation to a bodhisattva is also a return to ourselves. Just like that caterpillar to a butterfly, one cannot exist within each other. So I still remember when I went back to see Master one year, she gave me a little seed and she said, don't underestimate the seed. And so it made me think about, like, when we look at the butterfly is the caterpillar is the butterfly, just as the tiny seed that Master gave me contains the giant oak tree. And so what is also in the river is in the ocean. So said differently, every part of us contains the essence to our most tremendous becoming. And so this process for me that I've learned is more of an excavation, a remembrance of who we are before the world got our hands on us, before all of our habitual tendencies emerge as we age and advance. And so what happens when we surrender to flow, and the flow, I sort of want to decrypt that, is when our highest path is activated, when we can no longer figure things out through the mind, and we start to make the choice to shift into the heart. So this is why I always say that, I feel like the longest journey you and I will ever make is this 18 inches from our head to our heart. And why I say surrender to flow, because in my experience, in my journey, I started to find that the word flow, Flow, decrypted, is actually what Master teaches us about the secret to life, which is follow love over will. Letting our heart be that witness to guide our journey toward the life that we're meant to live. And so I wanted to kind of just share for the next 30 minutes or 15 minutes or so what some of the top 3 invaluable lessons that I gained from this journey as a testament to the boundless transformation that awaits within us in here as we navigate the system of life by surrendering and following love. So the first one I mentioned, what I learned is this, that it starts with returning back to our true self. One thing I love to do when I meet new people is to understand who they really are deep down, because it's taken me a long time to understand who I really am. Like, are they defined by what they do, or by by what they dream of doing, or are you following your heart, or are you choosing to prioritize, financial stability? Some of people that I know, they feel a pull to make a difference, but they find themselves choosing a well-paying job instead. So do you feel called to play big by answering the call of our spirit, or do we be more loyal to our fears? But what I've noticed is, do we all wear different masks in different situations? And what I have felt was that, this rediscovery, coming back to who we really are in here, boils down to whether or not our thoughts, like what we think, what we say, and what we do, are actually fully in alignment. That when we consistently show up the same way with everything, that we then become the most authentic version to ourselves. I think about Master and how she shows up. She is Master. There's a different version of Master. So I suppose, when we show kindness to people that we only know, in that case, that maybe we're not allowing ourselves, our kindness, to fully expand, because authenticity then calls for us to let go of our judgments and expressing our beingness without any conditions or limits. There's a sense of saying that true belonging is actually a very spiritual practice, that belonging to who we are deep down inside, so deeply that we can share this most authentic part of ourselves with anyone in the world. And we find sacredness in standing alone, even when it calls, even when we find ourselves in the minority. And so the sense that there's a quote that says, true belonging doesn't require you to change who you are. It requires you to be who you are. And I found that, contrary to what culture teaches us, I had fallen victim to that, social conditioning. I think a lot of times culture teaches us that fulfillment has everything with getting what you want, right? If I want X and I get X, then I'm fulfilled. But I started to learn through the spiritual cultivation that it actually has nothing to do with getting what you want, and actually has everything to do with our ability to express our spiritual essence out here at the personality level. It's about the purity of our being without putting any additives. Like we don't have to puff up, we don't have to shrink down, and being consistent at the way we show our compassion, or consistent at the way we show our kindness, regardless of what the situation. And that's how we feel most alive. And this is an essential part of what we're actually here karmically to manifest, that this life becomes, this body is this instrument in the orchestra of life. I know that in school, and even in culture, so much of what you'll read teaches us that we're merely a product of, if anyone here has kids, or those who are not in the Su Ching world just yet, many of them would think that that we're a product of nature or nurture, right? We're either shaped by our genetics or shaped by our environment. And so if this was true, we might hear many stories where, they would blame our parents if we don't like who we are, or if I don't get what I want, then maybe it's a fault of the government, it's a fault of my job, my boss. But however, the beauty of the spiritual cultivation is that when we start to adopt this broader view that incorporates the concept of reincarnation, we realize that individuals, every one of us, bring a propensity to life and to our family. And the belief that we're just the sum of our genetics or culture and environment creates many problems. It fosters this sense of immutability, that change is impossible. But when we start to see ourselves, as Master teaches us, that we're spiritual beings, and we understand the essence of our existence is about change and evolution and this constant cultivation, that we are first and foremost spiritual beings living in a human experience, and not human beings living a spiritual experience. And so it's about working through these karmic lessons of our habitual tendency and expanding the perception of what's possible. And so cultivation becomes such a powerful tool. Someone had asked me, I had a friend who was a foreigner who had asked me, what do you mean by spiritual cultivation? And I thought the easiest way to explain that was sort of this process of how can we align our conscious mind with our deepest spiritual essence. Buddha has taught us that every one of us embodies and possesses this enlightened self. And aligning with it narrows the gap between our personality and the spiritual nature, so that we can allow our deepest essence to shift. I call this the shift from ego back to essence. And, and so the notion that the quieter we become, the more we're able to hear ourselves. And while Tzu Chi's sect is not about meditation, we actually, I feel like it's even a higher level, is cultivating that level of stillness through action. That this also allows us to get quiet, and being in tune is of our emotions and what is off alignment. It's like a glass of water that needs to be settled before it becomes clear. And so I go back to that caterpillar again. I think about how courageous that little caterpillar must be to enter its dark night of the soul, like go into a cocoon, right? Trusting going into the dark, and then emerging, trusting that it will come out and to be a butterfly. But culturally, we all move too fast, especially now with technology and social media. I feel like the struggle to reach this depth, unless we can reach this depth, everything becomes very superficial. And so in our society, we don't really know how to go into the dark moon so that we can emerge to be the bright moon again. Like, I know some of you may live in the city, but if you ever take a look at the moon, even the moon doesn't always shine so brightly. An essential aspect of life for human is to renew. And because we are nature, nature is us, it means that we're also cyclical like nature. So it's illogical to always be as bright as the sun, because even summer comes to an end to welcome a new season for fall. So I always think that when we feel introverted or dark, it's a wonderful invitation by Mother Earth to go on a journey, because if we don't, we start to see what's happening in the society now. People are popping pills in the US. We have a opioid pandemic. Some people I know turn to alcoholism, but anything really that helps us prevent feeling. Whereas if we welcome the opportunity to acknowledge what lies in our shadow, then many times we emerge with new resource and new gifts. And so, a couple of years ago, Master had mentioned that there was a neuroscientist that came to visit her, and they had found that we actually, as human beings, are hardwired neurologically for two things, which is one is compassion and the other is altruism. And so the foundations of true self, they have researchers, a new wave of generations are actually proving this, which is the educators and neuroscientists are showing that the characteristics of true self are things like kindness, compassion, resilience, curiosity, conscientiousness, optimism. In fact, they're even coming out to say like all these things that I just rattle off, that they're actually the ingredients for what makes a child success and what makes humans thrive. So I feel like Master is so wise, right? She's essentially saying everything that only now science is being able to prove out. So one of the great things that I always love is, good practice for connecting with our true self as a reminder, because sometimes I'm human too and I get heated up, is to find your childhood photo, to pull it out, just your favorite childhood photo. And I find that if you put it on your wall or you put it on your phone, on your screen, and save it as a background, you will remember who you really are. So the next time you get upset or something disturbs you, you're down, you can look and say, okay, that's who I really am. Is it really all that important? So inviting that person to come out and shine again. The second thing that I wanted to share is that authenticity is rooted in love and vulnerability. Sometimes like people tell me that they're authentic. They say, oh, I'm speaking my truth, right? I'm letting them have it. This is how it is. Or I remember recently a friend who said, oh, I love this guy so much that, I show him all the parts of me, even the ones that make me feel vulnerable. So then I said, oh, is that really true love? Especially because, if he doesn't call you, then you feel very anxious and you feel very vulnerable. So I feel like, it's opportunity for us to, in a spiritual world, to redefine true love. Master teaches us that true love doesn't cause pain, only attachments do, right? So the notion that the near enemy of love is attachment, 我们的执着. Because true love allows and respects and honors and appreciates, whereas attachments, it grasps and it demands and it needs and it possesses, whether it's our own idea or to another individual. And so I'd like to think of that caterpillar again, transforming into a butterfly, that very vulnerable, open, quietly confident, teaching us that, love is that gratitude opens that door to joy, even if it means going into that dark cocoon. And so I mention this because, when I think about how love works in mysterious ways, that if you've ever witnessed a dark thought, I don't know if many of you have had dark thoughts, but if you ever witness a dark thought, a thought that isn't getting you anywhere, and if you just observe it as if you're on an observation deck and love it and love your dark thoughts, that remembering the part that's witnessing is the part of the soul, and the soul loves everything, right? It loves the clouds, the fish, the animals, the experiences, and what it brings to you, and this love that coalesces the universe. So in here, it's the teachings that Master tells us that when we are mindful in acknowledging our thoughts and transmuting them through the power of love, then what we end up with is this beautiful heart's tenfold path. I see Master's 10 fold path 实在心路 as Master's sort of recipe for us in the power of love. You know, she talks about how, I think in translated is, in suffering we nourish compassion, and in uncertainty we cultivate wisdom, in adversity we develop resilience, and in tedium we train patience. So I think there's 10, like 6 more. So there's all these different parts. But I feel like that's the work of love. That was a secret underlying ingredient underneath that. And if I apply that, then it's almost there, coming back to the topic, then I understand that, wow, wounds become our sources of wisdom, that the messes that we experience in our life, the imperfections, that these messes become the most powerful message then we live to proclaim. And same thing, confusion then becomes our greatest pathway to clarity, telling us, hey, this isn't it. And that the pain becomes the seeds to our greatest purpose and power. And so the notion of love helps us understand that everything is not happening to us, but rather everything is happening for us in this moment. And love is the same thing that Master teaches us, is whereas society would say weakness is a flaw, love would see that as a strength. This is why Lao Tzu always had said, and most important, let them be themselves, let them be helpless like children, because weakness, it's a great thing. And strength, it's nothing. Because when a man is born, he's very weak and inflexible. But when he dies, he is hard and insensitive. Just like if you take a look, like right outside, I see these big trees growing. Trees, when they're growing, they're tender and they're pliant. But, you know, when it's like becomes our table, when it is dry and hard, it's dead. And so I think this is a very great reminder that we must remain soft and adaptable, because what's hardened in life never wins. And so hardness and strength all around us, if we look, teaches us that they're actually companions of death, while pliancy and weakness and vulnerability, that's expressions of life. And so I talk about this as a second piece of learning that I got through, because love transforms how we view challenges, giving us more choices in the moment. So love encompasses compassion and generosity and joy, and how that expands our minds and heart to approach things with a much different perspective. And so now, you know, one of the exercises that I always go through is I ask myself, you know, what attachments or what fears am I holding back from truly experiencing love within myself and for others? And how can I begin to release them to embrace more vulnerability and openness in my process? So I guess, you know, the task is not so much to look for love outside of ourselves, but then to understand what barriers we have built against it. Okay, so the last one is the third lesson that I learned in this journey of metamorphosis, is of how to transform our pain into purpose, is actually the shift from what I call ego to essence. I sort of mentioned that last year, Master had invited me to come back to Hualien to study with her for about 6 months. And, you know, one of the things that I learned from Master is that letting go is true happiness, and putting down burden brings real freedom. You know, I think life often demands that we relinquish things to gain something quicker. I always think like when we grasp something in life so tight, like there's no room for us to gain anything. And so from the small things to the big things, from the minor sacrifices to the even more significant ones, I've come to understand in my journey that the shift from ego to essence begins by letting go. And, and like I think about my earlier experiences, I couldn't love myself when I was young. How could I when I was holding on to false beliefs about myself? So I also wasn't letting go of what was up here, these notions. And so now I have a cleansing ritual where I ask myself, what false belief am I holding on to today? What expectations of others have I internalized as our own? And so before I left, Master had taught me something about the truth of letting go in a form of a question. So she asked me when I asked her, she says, it's not easy to put down what you have, but have you truly, and this is hard to translate. So in Mandarin, she asked me, 你有放下，但是你有看开吗? And so Master had taught me in that question that there are actually two very crucial steps to letting go. One is releasing our burdens, and then two is actually gaining clarity. So letting go for me now has a different feeling. There's an aspect of fully understanding the situation and then accepting it with an open heart and mind. And so I think about it like this. I've thought about it a little bit. Is imagine a donkey, who's burdened with this heavy load through their life, right? It knows nothing else but these two satchels that carry on its left and its right all through its life. So all of a sudden, when you ask the donkey, when you take, you remove one satchel, removing one actually creates a very unsettling feeling. It actually causes this donkey to then be unbalanced and stumbling. In fact, I would imagine if I was donkey that I would actually want the satchel. I want that weight back because that's familiar. And so similarly, our desires and our worries sometimes become our burdens because that's what we're used to, we're accustomed. I don't know how many of you know people who can't stop talking about their problems. They aren't merely telling the story, they've become their story in their process. And so letting go then is this process that begins with the courage to release these burdens, 放下, and then nurturing that selfless and compassionate thoughts that we have to then maintain our faith. And so faith for me has been a big thing. I fully really understand that faith is the mother of all virtues. And then patience until this new affinity, this 因缘 starts to emerge. And trusting that when we make the selfless and compassionate vows, as great as the ones that we do for all sentient beings, that we never have to walk alone in this life, that we have this infinite army behind us. And so, I think that humans were such paradoxical creatures that we like to hold on to things that we don't like. So I use myself as an example. I used to hoard these mental toxicity. I fuss over it, and yet it's doing me no good. And so now I think about, if the words that we spoke appeared on our skin, whether it's out loud or that we think to ourselves, I wonder if we would still all be beautiful. And so, to end, I think about this donkey, that, unless we have learned to let go and put down and bring our hearts in alignment, that maybe we'd be like the donkey, that we would cling to our burden, our discomfort, and out of fear of discomfort and a misguided sense of stability, that we would ended up missing the miracle of our life and just, assuming fate for destiny. So I guess, I have 6 minutes left, so I will just say that, I think in this life, when we enter this world with our body, all of us carry our own set of karmic lessons that we're here to resolve and to learn. We all have our heartaches and heartbreaks, and it doesn't matter, what our experiences are and what our background, that none of us are exempt from this human experience. including pain and suffering. And this is why Buddha calls suffering the holy truth. And, and what I've learned is that society often tells us, or maybe oftentimes we tell ourselves, and we just define that success, whatever that might be, through tangible achievements. And yet, if you were to examine my journey, you would know that it doesn't necessarily exempt us for really the true work that happens in here. And so what truly defines my success, my wellness within, is by focusing on cultivating the blessings that I am not able to quantify or show to anyone but myself. And, in learning and studying from wonderful people, including like living goddesses like Master Chen, is that we discover that to discover our purpose is to first discover our heart. And even Gandhi had taught of the same thing, echoing what Master Chen had said, to the extent that to discover who we really are is to surrender ourselves in this process. And so, in this process, I wanted to talk about, how we can be the spiritual, as a bodhisattva, we become spiritual alchemists, understanding the values of going into suffering, of meeting suffering, of bearing witness to it, understanding that is what gives us the greatest source in the compassion. And compassion is an evolved state of being that then allows us to transmute darkness into light. So then the process, we become these light bringers, these way showers, these truth tellers, and then illuminators who then help people find their place, their path, their purpose, to help them find their healing, their home, and anything else in between. And so in the last 3 minutes, I will, I will share an old Hindu legend that I felt is a fun story that illuminates this. So according to this old Hindu legend, long time ago, once upon a time, there was a period in time where all humans were gods. So where all of us were these magnificent gods who actually had our divinity. But humans, they abuse their divinity so much that one of the head god, Brahma, the chief god, he decided to take it all away from them and hide it from the humans where it will never be found. But where to hide the divinity was the question. So Brahma, he held this council and he called all the other gods to help him decide. And he says, come on, we need to figure out where do we hide the divinity from the humans? And so one of the gods said, well, I know, let's bury it deep in the earth, said the gods. And then the Brahma answered, no, that will not do, because the humans will dig into the earth and they will find it. So then another god said, well, okay, well, then let's sink it into the deepest ocean, for surely they will not find it there. And then Brahma thought for a second, and then they said, no, that's not going to work, because they're going to dive into the ocean and they'll also find it. So they thought again. And then another god said, okay, well, I know where to do it. Let's take it to the top of the highest mountain and then let's hide it there. But then Brahma once again said, no, that will not work, because they'll eventually climb every mountain. They will hike up the tallest mountain in this world and they will once again take up their divinity. So then finally the gods gave up and they said, well, we don't know where to hide it, because it seems like there's no place on earth that in the sea or, in the ocean that the humans will not eventually reach. So then Brahma thought for a long time and then said, okay, well, here's what we'll do. We'll hide their divinity deep within the center of their own being. For humans, they'll never think to look for it there. And then all the gods agreed that this was the perfect hiding place for the divinity, for humans, and the deed was done. And since that time, humans have been going up and down the earth, digging and diving and climbing and exploring and searching for something that was already within themselves all along. So that's my sharing. And so an invitation and encourage to welcome all of us to be a spiritual alchemist and discover all that the treasures that exist within for us. Thank you.
Cảm ơn so much, Sister Stephanie, for a very inspiring and wonderful sharing. We learned from you, surrender to the flow of life. And I noticed that you grew up as a high achiever and going through what you have been through and found the place in your heart of great love. So thank you for that. And
Thank you.
so, cảm ơn so much. That's all the time we have this weekend on this Saturday. And so we thank all the sharers who from Sister Effie, Sister Tiffany. And well, of course, we have here who just open up the videos. It's the Tiffany who having through her own life challenges, which I'm sure she resonate very well. It was Sister Stephanie being through. And I'm not forgetting Brother Robin, who is our head for the English group. And also we thank you.
Intelligent sharing, Sister Stephanie. I love your sharing, especially the ending, hidden all right in the heart. Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
You nail it. You nail it. Wonderful.
Thank you, brother.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Right. So
Pleasure. Thank you for this opportunity.
we bid our farewell for this session, and before we do, we will offer our 3 bows to
Can
the
we take a
Buddha.
group photo first, Brother Chin?
All right, sure. Group photo.
Yeah.
All right.
We
So
switch on all our videos so that we can take a group photo. Meanwhile, we'd like to extend our greatest gratitude once again to Sister Tiffany for sharing with us a very cathartic sharing today. Cảm ơn.
Wow, awesome, sister, awesome sharing, very heartwarming.
Truly.
真的 overwhelming. 感恩 Sister Tiffany. Yeah, we look forward to hear more from Sister.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm
Thank you
sure
so
Brother David
much.
will be very proud. We'll send this recording to Brother David as well.
I think we'll have a lot of views for this video. We'll share it with the young people.
Very
Yeah.
good.
Cảm ơn.
all right, shall we offer 3 bows to the Buddha? I will end the session. First bow. Second bow. The third bow. We also offer 1 bow to our beloved masters in Hualien. Bow. Okay, y'all. All of you have a great weekend and a great week ahead, and we'll
Bye.
see you again next
Take
Saturday.
care, everyone. Stay safe.
Cảm ơn.
Bye. Cảm ơn.
Cảm ơn Brother Chin. Cảm ơn大家. Cảm ơn Sister Tiffany. Cảm ơn so much.
Wonderful hosting, Brother Chin.
Inspiring.
Thank you.
Wonderful sharing.